You're listening to Psych with Mike. For more episodes or to connect with the show with comments, ideas, or to be a guest, go to www.psychwithmike.com. Follow the show on Twitter @PsychWithMike or like the Facebook page @PsychWithMike. Now, here's Psych with Mike.
Welcome into the Psych with Mike Library. This is Dr. Michael Mahan here on the first episode without Brett Newcomb, so I don't know if this is as weird for you guys as it is for me, but I just wanted to drop by and kind of give an update about where I think things are going to go, where I plan for things to go, and then talk to you a little bit about a topic. And I also want to include the last couple of minutes of the first episode that we did saying goodbye to Brett. If you're on the YouTubes, you're going to see that I'm not lying. I completely screwed that up with absolutely no conscious memory on my part. But if you're not on the YouTubes, if you're listening to this on the podcast, I wanted you guys to hear that because I got pretty emotional and I wanted that to be a part of the documentation of the show. And then after we cut to that, then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is the idea of closure, which is something that's very apropos since I am going through that now with the evolution of the show. So let's check out that last few minutes of that first taping of the Goodbye episode with Brett. So I am very, very aware that it is very, very difficult for me to end this conversation. I don't like this closure.
Yeah.
So
we'll say that's all, folks.
Well, I want to say, and I've said this the last couple of times, how much that this means to me. I'm going to really try and get through this without completely breaking down. But I want you to know, and I want other people to know how much that this means to me. And
thank you.
I could not imagine these last 3 years without you a part of this. I don't know if this is going to go on or if it does continue, what it's going to look like. But I can honestly say that I have learned more about doing therapy in the last 3 years doing this show with you than I have learned at any other point in my life. And wow. I appreciate that opportunity.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And for those who want to continue to be a part of the show, you can get a hold of me. Let me know what you would like to see this look like, or if anybody out there has any desire to be a part of the show in any way, you can get me through the Psych with Mike website, psychwithmike.com, and send me an email there. The music that appears in Psych with Mike is written and performed by Mr. Benjamin DeClue. And for the last time with Mr. Brett Newcomb, I will say, if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike. Okay, we're back. And just a couple of housekeeping things that I wanted to talk about. Number one is I'm not really sure where this is going to go, where the show's going to go. What my plan is to take a couple of weeks off, maybe about a month off, and I'm going to revisit some of the greatest episodes that we did with Brett, some of the ones that got the best feedback and some of them that got the highest ratings. And so I'll put a little bit of commentary in with that when I drop those episodes. The other thing is that I don't know where this is going to go. So if you are interested in being a part of the show, reach out to me. Let me know what you want the show to look like. If there's anybody out there that would like to be on the show as a part-time person, just a guest, or even a regular person, please reach out to me and let me know. I'm very interested in talking to people about that. And what I'm going to do is over the next month is to kind of think about what that's going to look like, and then we will relaunch the show sometime over the summer, maybe closer to the fall, with a new kind of revamped format. So I'm very excited about what that can look like, but I'm also very interested in getting information and feedback from people who have been a part of the show, have been listening to the show, who want to continue to listen to the show. What is it about the show that makes the show good for you, usable for you? What do you find interesting about it? What do you not like about it, if there's things that you haven't liked? And I want to try and get a feel for that, so that when I do come out and rebrand the show, I can make it as approachable and quality value, put as much quality value into it as I possibly can. So the thing I wanted to talk about today was this idea of closure. And if we look at the Merriam-Webster version, so if you're on the YouTube, then I'm going to put cards up here for things that I'm talking about. If you're not on the YouTube, then obviously you're not going to see those things, but I will include those links in the show notes. So closure is just simply the act of something closing, or the second definition here in the Merriam Dictionary is having a sense of finality to something. And that's an issue that I do deal with a lot when I talk to clients. A lot of people have problems getting closure. So here I am at the end of this run with my good friend and colleague Brett Newcomb, doing something that I really feel passionate about, which is the podcast. And Brett's now decided that he's not going to be a part of this anymore. And so I'm in this situation where I have to figure out what's this going to look like without him as a part of it. And so I have to first get closure on this period of time when he and I did that together, or else I'm going to have one foot in the past as I'm trying to place one foot into the future. So closure is this sense that something hasn't been completely finished. Sometimes when we lose a significant other, even a pet, what happens is that we don't want that to be finished. We want to hold on to the memory of that individual or that relationship or that beloved pet. And so we don't allow ourselves to come to a point where we accept, and that's an important word, acceptance, that this is over, that the relationship is over, that the person is gone, that the pet has passed on. And so we try and hang on to that. And whenever we're hanging on to something, then we're never going to have closure. So let's go back to that word acceptance. And this is the clinical or Merriam-Webster definition of the word acceptance. So being able to accept or come to terms with the idea that something has passed, and embracing that reality is closure. So closure is really just another word for acceptance. So a person who has closure has accepted the reality of a thing, and a person who hasn't accepted the reality of a thing doesn't have closure. So really, if we want to demystify closure, what we can do is to think of it in terms of acceptance. Acceptance is closure. So when I can accept a thing, then I have closure. When I haven't accepted a thing, I don't have closure. And that's true for all of us. And all of us have experiences where we have had difficulty being able to get closure. And that's the reason why, is because we haven't accepted it. So whenever you find yourself, and I'm going to put two articles up here. One of them is from Psychology Today, which is about finding acceptance. And in that article, the one recommendation, so I mean there are a couple of recommendations that I think are good. Number one is, living in a mindful way. I have to be aware of what's going on in my reality and acknowledging that for me to be able to accept that reality. And then the second one is I have to live with patience. And that reminds me of the old adage, be careful what you wish for because you might get it. Or another version of that is be careful what you pray for because God may give you the opportunity to practice it. So I know that for a long time for me, I was very aware that patience was something that was elusive. And so I would pray all the time, oh, I really want to get patience. I really want more patience. And then as would have it, the universe would put me into situations where I would have the opportunity to practice patience. And because I didn't have much patience, that really frustrated me, made me less patient. So that becomes a vicious cycle. That's the same thing that we do with closure. I don't have closure. I really want closure. Everybody tells me, oh, I should get closure. And yet I'm holding on to that past memory, and so then I don't have closure, and that makes me want closure more, and so that becomes a vicious negative thought loop. So if I'm going to live in the now and practice patience, then what I am saying is that I'm going to live in a reality with as little judgment as possible. Another form of, or a way of practicing patience is to remove myself from judgment. Most of the time, the thing that catches us up is this judgmental mentality that we live in, where we think to ourselves, oh, this is horrible, this is terrible, I can't stand it. And then that generates in us a sense of impatience. So what helps us to be more patient is to live in a world of less judgmental thinking. And that means that whenever I see myself, I have to try and be mindful of when am I being judgmental? And if I recognize that I am being judgmental, then I want to try and let that go and make that as little a part of my life as possible. And then that will allow me to be more patient, which will allow me to be more mindful, which will allow me to be more accepting and allow me to have better closure. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it for today. As I said, I'm going to take a couple of weeks off to kind of think about where things are going. I'm really hoping that I will get some feedback during that period of time so that I can rebrand the show in a way that is going to make people feel good and be able to use the show to the most effective purpose possible. And I hope that people will continue to find this to be a valuable listen. And if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike.